Hi, I'm Purdy, Marketing Executive at UKFT, and I'm here today with David Evans of the Grey Fox blog as part of UKFT's British Textile Week in association with the Cloth Workers Company and Campaign for Wool. We're here celebrating the craftsmanship, creativity and innovation of the UK textile industry, and I'm pleased to be here today with David to discuss more about what he does and also the various mills he's visited across the UK. So David, can you begin by telling us a little bit more about what you do?
Sure, yes. Hello, everybody. My name's David Evans. I have a blog called Grey Fox, and I'm also on Instagram as Grey Fox Blog. And I've been a blogger now for nearly 9 years. And I blog mainly, I suppose, about menswear style, but also about lifestyle things generally. And I think relevant to this talk really is that very early on I had no prior background in menswear or clothing manufacture or whatever, anything like that at all. But very early on I became aware that there is still a British manufacturing industry, which sort of surprised me because I thought it had all disappeared, I suppose, at the end of last century. And that has become quite a sort of a firm theme of the blog, looking at British clothing manufacturers and so on. And that is essentially what I do. It's the blog is very much a hobby and I really enjoy doing it.
Lovely, great. And textiles can be overlooked by some people who love fashion. How did you become interested in them, and why do you think it's important for people to know about where things are made?
I think I became interested in textiles really as part of my growth and interest of British manufacture. I mean, it's quite clear that anybody who knows any history knows that in this country we have this huge sort of history, tradition and heritage of cloth manufacture in particular. And I'd imagined that all this had very much disappeared, but I found out sort of in the early days of the blog that actually it hadn't, and that we do still make cloth in this country, which is, you know, a great thing. And I think many people don't realise when they buy something from a shop, whether it's bespoke, made to measure or off the peg, that the cloth that it's made of is a sort of an essential part of that garment. You know, it depends how the garment will feel, how long it will last. And I think something that people are coming more interested in is the provenance of that cloth as well, where it's made. So these are all things I tend to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Great. And so you've obviously seen and felt and worn various different fabrics made in the UK. Could you tell us a few of your favourites?
Yes, sure. I suppose I tend to like a little bit of texture in my fabrics. I don't like really sort of smooth flannels, although I do have some cloths, some suits made in that way. So I suppose my first choice would probably be tweeds. And I'm very lucky to have a few very nice tweed jackets and tweed suits. But as I say, I do wear flannel. I wear linen in the summer, and I'm lucky to sort of accumulated a reasonable collection of cloth suits and jackets in that way, and indeed coats. So some of the heavier cloths, you know, we wear in the summer, in the winter. Sorry, are very important as well. Yes, not in the summer. In the summer, it's linens, and it's been interesting recently seeing the sort of different weights of linen that you can buy, and I find myself even wearing heavier weights of linen in the winter, actually. So it's very interesting what an amazing diversity of cloths you can buy for any use.
Definitely. And leading on from that, you have also visited a lot of mills across the UK, which is something a lot of people don't actually get to do. They don't get to see the behind the scenes. So could you tell us some of the ones that have stood out to you and for which reasons?
Yes, I've been incredibly lucky on the blog in being able to visit factories and mills of all sorts, you know, not just sort of cloth mills, but shoemakers and leather works and all sorts of things. And of the cloth mills that I've visited, the ones that stand out for me are ones I've been able to do a little bit of work with. For example, Johnstons of Elgin. I was very lucky to be able to work with them to actually design a cloth, which we then made into a suit on Savile Row, and that was just a fascinating experience, going through the design process and then seeing the cloth actually being woven and finished, and then eventually cut to make a suit. And I'm lucky enough to have been to Johnstons 2 or 3 times, and I've enjoyed every single visit there. I also was lucky enough to be a guest of the Harris Tweed Authority and went up to the Isle of Harris and visited some of the weavers and a couple of mills there to see how Harris Tweed is produced. And I think the story behind that is absolutely fascinating. I think many people don't realise when they buy Harris Tweed that the cloth is actually woven in people's sheds, in people's homes, and then sent to the local mill to be finished. And again, the variety of the colours and the finishes and the looks, the checks, the herringbones. It was just a fascinating experience, sort of seeing all this stuff being made, you know, in people's homes and going to the mills. I've also been to Huddersfield fine worsteds and seen some of the flannels and things being made. So I've been very lucky, really. I think what stands out for me is not only seeing people working at the looms and making things, but also being able to talk to them. What seems to run through all the places I've been where we make things in this country is an incredible pride and skill in what we do. And I think that is something that we probably don't hear enough about. And I do try to write about it in the blog, because I think it's very much part, you know, when you buy a suit or a roll of cloth, you're not just buying that object, you're buying the whole sort of history behind it, and that you're buying memories of the people who designed it and made it. You're buying into the farmers who produced, you know, the wool or whatever it is, or the cotton for the cloth. And I just love that whole sort of story around a garment. When you put it on, you can think about all the myriad of people who've been involved in its manufacture and its growth and in its development and design. And I think that is something that it's nice to talk about, and which I'd really like more people to sort of understand and enjoy.
Definitely, there's so many stories in the industry which definitely need a brighter light shone on, because yeah, it's incredible what they're doing, all the different styles they can make, the way they make them. Yeah, the stories behind the fabrics are incredible, and like you said,
I think that's right. And it's very interesting seeing how technology is improving fabrics. You know, we're getting lighter weight fabrics, we're getting fabrics which just feel absolutely gorgeous, we're getting fabrics which don't crush as much, and even ones which are sort of water resistant and can be used for sort of, you know, sweaty sporting purposes. And I just think it's great to see how those developments are being applied to something which has really been around for centuries, you know, if not millennia. Seeing how we're producing it to keep up with the times.
Definitely, there's a lot of innovation going on, as you said.
Yes.
So do you have anywhere else that's next on your list to visit?
I'd absolutely love to visit Brothers Flannel, because I haven't been down to that part of the country for a while, and one tends to think of sort of Scotland and Yorkshire and Lancashire as the main centres of cloth production. It'd just be very interesting to go and see. I think they're an 18th century mill down there, aren't they? It'd be very interesting to go and see them. And I do have a particular love for their checks and their sort of herringbones and their Prince of Wales check flannels, which are absolutely gorgeous. And maybe one day I'll get a suit made from one of those.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll be looking out to see if you visit there anytime soon. And lastly, David, could you tell us what British Textiles means to you?
I think British Textiles means to me, I suppose maybe predictably, I am going to talk about the heritage and the history, and you know how we were probably one of the first countries to be producing cloth on an industrial scale. But as I mentioned before, it's a lot more than that. It's about the people who design it and make it, the farmers who are involved in the process, the finishers, the weavers. It's about so much, and all these people have particular skills which, if we didn't buy the products, those skills would disappear, the jobs would disappear. So it's an incredibly important part of not only that sort of heritage side of clothing manufacture, but also the commercial, you know, realities of the country, the economic strength of the country. to be seen to be making stuff which is appreciated not just at home but abroad, and hopefully we export and lots of cloth to countries that appreciate what we do here, but at the same time they appreciate the heritage and the history behind it.
Definitely. Well, that's great. I mean, obviously we could talk for much longer, but thank you very much for giving us an insight into your experiences. For those of you watching, you can find out more at www.ukft.org, and if you follow the British Textile Week hashtag on social media, you'll be able to see more interviews, trends and tales from the UK textile industry.